Hello, welcome back to my gathering basket. My name is Danelle. Thank you so much for joining me today, whether it's your first time or, my goodness, I think this is the 21st time some of you may have been joining me. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. I hope that you find something interesting or at least something that piques your interest. I have several different things to show you today. We'll start with spinning. Last time I showed you my completed skein of my horned Dorset, and I was hoping to get that on the needles. Well, I finally did just a couple days ago. I've heard other podcasters say this, and it's definitely been true for me, especially doing every 2 weeks. I always think I'm going to get so much done, and I start off the first few days after I podcast just full of energy and wanting to get all these new things started that I've told you about. And then it peters out. And then a couple days before it's time to podcast, when I'm getting my show notes together, I realize, oh my goodness, I didn't do that. And I get this flurry of cast-on-itis again. So that's definitely been the case the last 2 weeks for me. So I finally got my hat cast on out of my hand spun of the horned Dorset. If you remember last episode, I showed you the skein, and here it is all caked up. It has a very interesting, just that white and brown together. Like I said, I spun it just as is. It was a two-colored roving, and it just has that mottled look to it. And I wasn't sure how that would knit up, but I picked a pattern and got started, and I'm sorry I don't have a whole lot to show you. This is what it is knitting up like. And I'm sorry, I have a new camera, so I'm still trying to figure out exactly where I need to look and show these items to you. But there you are. It's really kind of just giving a heathered. It's a lot softer. I was afraid that the colors in it would really have pops. It would kind of pull, but it's just kind of giving a little bit of it's just heathered. So I'm kind of liking how this is knitting up. I am working on, this is all twisted rib, and I have several inches yet to go, but I am working on I don't know how this is pronounced, I'm calling it the Cara hat, and I did this last fall for my niece. Here's a picture of it, and I'll put all the information on the pattern designer and the link to the Ravelry. This is a free pattern. I put that information below, but it has just this slip stitch textured look, and it's a little bit of a slouchy beanie, depending on how long you make it, but it has that slip stitch ribbing, and then this twisted ribbing, and then the slip stitch pattern. So I really like how that turned out. When I did my nieces, the first few inches, I wasn't sure what I'd gotten myself into. The pattern was a little bit hard to wrap my brain. It wasn't a hard pattern, it was just kind of the stitch repeat was a little hard to wrap my brain around. It took me about 3 or 4 rows, and then it clicked, and from there it just flew. So very basic pattern, it's definitely textured, but it shows the yarn. So that's what I'm hoping, and hopefully I'll have a lot more, if not finished, next time. I remember with my nieces, the first couple inches just seemed like it took days to do, and then when I got the first 2 inches done, the rest of it I had it done in just a couple days. So I'm hoping that that's the case with this. We'll see. Last time I showed you that I had one of these socks done, and now I have 2. I finished this pair of socks. This is Noble Character Crafts, and I showed this a couple chapters ago, but this is Amy's colorway called Relief that she did to help with the relief efforts for the Nebraska floods. So it's beautiful, beautiful yarn. This is on her Pitter Patter base, and the colorway Relief. And I am making these for the mother of a friend of mine who is a volunteer relief worker with the Southern Baptist Disaster Relief. So I'm very happy to have both of these finished. I have them washed, blocked, and I just need to get these all wrapped up and pop those over to my friend to give to her mom. So very happy to have those done. I really like how the color play on this worked, and as you can see, I have another skein and then a pretty good little hank left from these socks that I'm hoping to do probably a shawl with. I just haven't picked my pattern. So that is one finished project this week that I'm very glad to have off the needles. And then for yesterday, or well, the day that this will come out on Monday, Saturday was my birthday. So I decided to do a birthday cast on, and I have been itching to have these socks on the needles for some time now. And actually, I'm calling this a birthday weekend cast on because I got it all ready together last night and then I was too tired to cast on. So these are, I got this done today. I have just 2 little toes and you can just barely see I'm on the 3rd color. This is, do you guys ever buy a yarn or not buy a yarn based on what the colorway name is? This would not have, here's the yarn all caked up. This would not be something that would normally appeal to me. It's beautiful yarn, but not something I would necessarily gravitate to until I read the name. This is Stacy of Mustache Yarns, and this is just her 75-25 fingering base in the Perfect Self-Striping socks. So it's 2 mini cakes, but the colorway, Eeyore's Rainbow, black to white. Love it. I have been an Eeyore fan since I was a toddler and my parents read me the original A.A. Milne books. Eeyore was always my favorite. In fact, I think it was 3rd or 4th grade. We didn't do Halloween at home, but our school had a Halloween parade and you had to dress up, and it was kind of a big deal if you didn't. So one year I asked to be Eeyore, and my mom made me an Eeyore. We cobbled together with, I wish I had a picture, with a pair of her old, she had some gray double knit pants and a gray turtleneck, and then she made, out of an old coat, she made a hat, kind of a head for me. It was amazing. Black yarn for the mane, and if you know the A.A. Milne books, and I think even the Disney videos, Eeyore had a tail that was held on with a nail because his tail would fall off. So my mom had a big nail, and she made I think it was a yarn tail, braided tail, and she put the nail into half of a styrofoam ball through the pants. And all the kids we went by grade, and we all had to, and the news came out and they took pictures of us, video of us all traipsing around a circle in our costumes, and then there was prizes and judging and all that kind of stuff. Well, halfway through the parade tour route, my tail fell off. So I've always felt quite a kinship to Eeyore. And a couple years ago, I went to the DFW Fiber Fest in Irving, Texas, and there was a little mini skein of this yarn, and it was like a DK weight, and I like 90 yards, or it was just a little like one of a kind leftover type thing. But the name Eeyore's Rainbow just clicked, and all year long I looked through the rest, and I asked one of the ladies in the booth if they had any other Eeyore's Rainbow left, and they didn't. So all year long that it stayed in my head all year. And then so I was going to try to find some the next year, and I wasn't able to go. So I asked my friend Tammy if she would be my personal shopper. And I said, there's just one thing all year long I have wanted the skein of Eeyore's Rainbow yarn. So and I knew she would be going to Mustache anyway, and I said, if you wouldn't mind looking, if you don't find it, it's okay, but I'd really, so I get this picture. I had to work that weekend, and I get this picture texted to me. I got it, and it was Eeyore's Rainbow. So I finally, last night, got it all skeined up, ready to go, and this is my birthday cast on. So I have never, new year, new technique, new yarn. I've never worked with Mustache before, so I have a new yarn, and this is my very first attempt at making socks 2 at a time. So I am using, these are Addy Sock Rockets, size 0, a 2.0 millimeter. And this is why I didn't cast on last night on my birthday, because I had never done this before. I had it in my head, but at the last minute I thought I need to watch a video, make sure I'm doing this correctly. And I was, but by the time I got the video watched, I didn't have the mental space to actually cast them on. So I'm through the 3 colors, just starting into this silver, but it's a black, a white, and a gray silver color. And I think those are the 3 colors. I don't think there's any others that'll pop up, but anyway, I have the toes just about completely finished. I'm trying to, this would be a normal 64 stitch sock, and this is similar to, I've worked with this base quite a bit with other dyers, and I usually do a 64, but this is just looking small, and I usually use a size 0. I'm having trouble. I need to, if I decide that I like the 2 at a time, which so far it hasn't been as bad as I thought it would be, but if I like this, I think I'm going to try to find some other needles. These are some of the very first, in fact, they may be the very first sock yarn needles, sock needles that I bought. And I don't, it's not that Addy are bad, but I'm not sure if somehow in storage, but I've got a rough spot. It's almost, the cable has almost kinked right here. So I'm doing a lot of really shoving it and having to work stitches over that connection. So if right now this is a 40-inch cable and it's more than enough, I could probably even work on a little bit smaller, but I think I've got my, I'm gonna try, I may have to do one more increase, but for right now, there's my toes. So I am ready to get going on this and really hoping I like this technique. So there's my birthday cast on, my mustache, my Eeyore's rainbow. Last time I told you that I was hoping to get started on my songbird mitts. Well, I did. So here is mitt 1, and I love how it's coming across on the screen here. In person, my floats aren't the most wonderful in here, but I have this much done on the first one. In fact, I just wove in the ends on the tip about an hour ago. So, because I started to podcast and a train came through, and then I started to podcast and my neighbor decided to start mowing, and then I decided to podcast and the train came through again. We have had 6 trains through this afternoon, which makes it a little annoying to podcast. So anyway, I was up to here and I just had the decrease section to do, and I was able to get that part put together. It just goes so fast when you get to here, and those decreases, when you're working those, it just goes so quickly. So I got this part done. I was doing probably about 2 or 3 rows a night, and I really like how this came out. And then I got up to here, and all of a sudden it was kind of like potato chippy striping socks kind of things, where all of a sudden when I got up here, the picture started to appear and I just wanted to get through. So I started just flying through this part. So I got this done this week. So I'm really, really hoping, obviously I have a thumb yet to do. I'm going to finish the second mitten and then go back and do the thumbs together, I think. So I really want to have these done by the end of the month to be able to take down to McKinney with me and show them what I made. In real life, if I get this, you might be able to see I'm kind of puckery here, a little bit more than I would like. I have it mastered now. Here's the flip side, and I really like how this turned out. The color work is very evenly spaced, and I really like how that turned out. But on the bigger areas where I have floats that I have to trap, like in here, you can definitely see the pucker where I've trapped my float. So I need to do a little bit of research. If you have any suggestions on videos or tips to make that a little bit better, in the long run, really, it comes down to practice. I just need to be practicing. Oh shucks, I guess I need to make some more colorwork mittens. So I have several other patterns in mind that I'd like to make. But I'm really pleased with how this has turned out for the most part. It's obviously not blocked. It is tuku wool, so I'm hoping that with blocking, some of that will even out as well. But I'm gonna try to make myself cast on the second one here pretty quick and get started before I lose my momentum on these. But I really like the way they came out. They are just surprisingly, just a tad snug. Like my finger goes all the way up to the top here. So I think I told you last time I was swatching with the thumb, and I had done, I believe the pattern calls for a size 2, and I had done a 2.5 and a 2.25 because I knew that I had tried in the past, done the size, the US 2, and it just didn't, it was way too big. So when I made the thumb, I had the 2.5 and the 2.25, and both of them were still definitely on the big side. And last time I told you I was even thinking that I might have to full these or felt them just a little bit. Definitely didn't need that. In fact, when I got about this far and tried it on, I thought I kind of panicked just a little bit. It was fitting, but I thought this is never going to increase big enough to be able to fit over my hand. So it's definitely a snug fit. I will not be felting these. And the length, when I initially measured them, I thought they were going to come up about to here almost. Let's see, about like that. And then somehow these decreases just went a lot faster than I had thought they would. So the length is just about perfect for me. So I could have actually gone up to that larger, the US 1.5, but this works. I'm very pleased with it, and definitely in the winter, and I think I can block it out just a smidge too. And in the winter, it's always nice to have a close fitting glove that will keep the heat in. And my goodness, these are thick. Not only because it's tuku wool, it's doubled, but because I knit at such a tight gauge. I got just a little bit. I actually got gauge. It was 10 stitches per inch, I believe was the written gauge, and I got that on my swatch, but this was obviously just a little bit tighter than my swatch. So I haven't measured gauge, and at this point, it doesn't really matter. I may just out of curiosity go ahead and measure it once I get them soaked and blocked out and see what this turned out to be. But very happy with this mitten so far, and I really want to get the other one started so I have a full pair and can finish the thumbs. So that's where I am with my knitting. I think that's all that I have done in actual knitting this week. I've been working on a couple crochet projects, but they are test projects and I can't share them quite yet. So I will have some of that to show you in a while. And then the next thing, I told you last time that I had a quilt project that was nearly done. I just had to do the binding. And I've shown you this top before. It's the iced tea pattern. It's all done in batiks, and this is for my niece's graduation in a couple weeks. And I've actually done it was a little hard to show you the detail on this, so I did a little bit of a video, and I will pop that in right here. I thought I'd give you just a quick tour of my iced tea block that I made for my niece. It'll be going to her the end of the month for her graduation from high school. This, as I think I've showed you before, is called the iced tea pattern. And this that I'm showing you right here, I believe it's a 20-inch block. There are 20 blocks, but they all have that central burnt orange looking center block. And then that just repeats over. So it's a very, very simple, it'd be a great beginner pattern. And then I was able to go up to my cousin's house. She has a long arm machine, and we got to playing, and I got it quilted. So I thought I couldn't show you this from a little bit of a distance, so I thought I would just kind of zoom in. So sorry about the shaking. But this is the back, and if you can see, it blows out. I've tried different backgrounds, but if you can see, it's just a repeating kind of a honeycomb, interlocking honeycomb pattern. And I've done the back with flannel, so stitches tend to kind of disappear in flannel, but you can kind of, hopefully you can see, it's just done all over this hexagon honeycomb pattern. But then when it translates to the front, you almost don't see it. And I intentionally used a thread that would disappear. But what I really like, and when my cousin and I took this off the frame, we were both just really surprised at how it looked. Every block, like if you can see that center block, it almost looks like chevrons. And then some of the blocks, this one up here, you can almost see an arrow pattern. And then you've got, again, chevrons. And I don't see one right here, but just depending on where that, oh, down here. Nope, you're not gonna be able to see it. But it just ends up there, you can see the hexagon pattern. But every single block looks a little bit different. So it looks like I've done a custom quilting job without it actually being custom quilted. There's, you can see kind of that Y arrow look. And I'm not gonna keep making you dizzy, but every block just turned out different, and I loved that. And then the other thing I thought I would point out, because you don't see it real often, is I did a pieced border. So basically this was a thrifty move on my part. If you can see this binding here, I just used pieces that were left over from the quilt, from all of the fat quarters. So you can see that as it goes around the quilt, I just patched together the edges, the little pieces that were left from cutting out the actual quilt blocks, and made a pieced binding. I really like how it turned out. Like I said, it was really just a cost-saving measure because I didn't want to buy extra fabric and I really wasn't sure what I wanted to make it out of. But I really like how it turned out in the end. I will be doing a pieced binding again. Really like it. So I hope that helped. I hope that made sense to you. I have I've really liked how this turned out. I'm very happy with this. So it's always just like knitting. When you finish one project and it turns out well, then you get really excited to do the next one. So this last weekend I had a shift at the quilt shop and I was looking around. It'd been a couple weeks since I had worked, and so I always have to do kind of a quick tour and see what's new. And they had a new pattern in that I could not resist. This is called Butterfly Patch by Lila Batik. And you guys, it's a patchwork butterfly. This is a full quilt. So this whole thing will be, the whole quilt will be one big butterfly. These are 6-inch squares when they're worked out. And the whole quilt, I believe, is 66-inch square. My plan is to make this as written, and then I'm gonna add another row of patchwork blocks, I think, on the bottom and the top. We had some of the fabrics that are actually called for in this, but we didn't have all of them. And the more I got to looking at, I actually went to a lot of shops will have half price fat quarters or discounted fabric, and I hit up, and a lot of times it's not that it's old fabric, bad fabric. A lot of times for us it's the remnants we will cut down into fat quarters, so, and then we sell them half price. So I went to the fat quarters sale bin and started looking and found fabrics very similar in color to this, and was able to match up. Oh my goodness, I spent all day just kind of looking, you know, as I was helping customers, gathering ideas. I had about 5 different, completely different pattern fabric choices picked by the end of the day. At one point I was looking, because I had liked this so much, I actually looked at and my cutting station is right next to the batiks. So I actually looked, and I was going to do all of these, the colored ones, blocks in batik oranges, yellows, rust colors, and then do this in a batik black and try to make it into a monarch. But I couldn't come up with quite enough fabrics to do that. So, and I thought that would be pretty bold. So I have all the fabrics, the fat quarters, and this is, it calls for a layer cake, but I didn't have a layer cake that I particularly liked. So I found fat quarters, and they're up here on the shelf. I got them all unrolled and ironed last night, and now I'm hoping this evening to spend some time cutting out pieces. Lila Batik her patterns are always very well written, optimized for very little fabric waste. So I'm really looking forward to getting this all cut out. And then my goal, I don't know if this will happen, but if I can get it to work out, I'd really like to try actually piecing this on the treadle machine that I showed you quite some time ago that I have not touched, I have not worked with since, and I really want to get that going. So I think these are all very straight strip piecing, little patches. So I think this would be a good one to try working the treadle machine. We'll see how that goes. I've got to remember how to wind a bobbin. So I may have to do a little bit of reteaching myself. It's been so long how that machine works. But that's my next project in quilting. I'm really hoping, I think this would be a fun spring summer quilt. And again, I'm trying to come up with a few that I can enter into our local fair. I'm not going to take quilts to state, but I think this would be fun to put in our local fair for a quilt this fall. So I need to get started on that. So that's the next butterfly patch. Because, oh my goodness, the butterflies. We have milkweed popping up everywhere. That stuff grows by underground rhizomes, like runner roots. And it is taking over our garden. We're having to actually pull it out because it's going out into the lawn and everywhere. It's crazy. And I think I told you last time that I saw the first monarch butterfly. And a couple days after that, I saw one laying eggs. And sure enough, a few days ago, I went back and looked over the milkweed, and I was able to find a bunch of caterpillars. So I am watching. I wanted to cut those leaves off and bring them inside, but right now things are just a little busy, and we don't have, I just don't have the time right now to be feeding caterpillars. So I'm hoping to make myself hold off on raising monarchs inside until this fall. I do think it would be fun to do 1 or 2 hatches this fall when it's time to do tagging. And the Monarch Watch that I belong to that does the Monarch Way Station also has they're one of the organizations that does tagging of monarchs so that they can follow them as they migrate south and just kind of keep an eye on numbers. So I'd like to. Last year I raised a number of monarchs, but I never did any tagging. So maybe this year I'll try that come this fall when they release the tags, and just try that. But boy, last year I found out that could be time consuming, trying to feed those caterpillars several times a day. They are voracious eaters. So I didn't quite want to launch into that this early in the season. It's so hard not to track down every egg and bring in every egg. But I still have baby chicks I'm taking care of. And I did take a little bit of a tour. I finally, 2 days ago, got them moved out. They are almost, well, today they're 3 weeks old. And it was time to get them out of the house. Normally, I would have them out of the house into a brooder in a week and a half. But we had some crazy cold temperatures there, just a really weird cold snap. Actually, that usually happens. Nice weather, and then you get a few days that are just breathtakingly cold in comparison. And it was very, very cold, very rainy, and I just didn't really want to put them out in the brooder house yet. So we got the brooder house all together and were able to get those moved out. And they are doing well. I sold a few of them, and a few of them will probably head south with us when we go to my brother's house the end of the month down in Texas, and they will go to his farm. So I will just probably be left with about 10 or so that I'll go ahead and raise up. So the chicks are doing great. They are outside, and like I said, I took a little bit of a video tour, and if it turns out at all, I'll try to edit it and put it at the end. They are doing super well and growing like they should. So things are doing well with them. Thank you for those of you that gave me a good chuckle about my escaping climbing worms last time. I am happy to report that no further worms have escaped. My African night crawlers are doing well. In fact, tomorrow my plans are, now that I have the chicks out of the house and I don't need the tub that they were in, I will probably go ahead and put the African night crawlers out of the small bin that they're in right now into the larger bin that I have the chicks in, and give them a little bit more growing space. Because tomorrow I am supposed to be getting a shipment of European nightcrawler cocoons. I did show you last fall, I think I showed you a picture of the cocoons from my red wigglers, and was really excited to see those. So I know I have raised cocoons in my worm bins, but I have never started with just cocoons. So this is the equivalent, this is the worm equivalent of hatching chicks in the incubator. So I am still having fun with hatching, except you don't have to have an incubator. You just have a bin set up. And I am working on getting all of that set up and ready. They should be in the mail tomorrow. Emily of the Crazy Worm Lady has been a huge help to me getting started. And she just started selling cocoons. She had put up a call for people to kind of be a test group on receiving these cocoons and hatching them out. So I am really excited to get those, and hopefully they won't need a whole lot of attention right off the bat, as it can take a few weeks, up to a month really, for all of those cocoons to hatch. So I'm hoping that that won't be too labor intensive for me. I'm already, like, I feel like I've got so much going on right now of different things that I'm starting. I've probably overcommitted, but hey, that seems to be how I like to do things. So I will have more of my worm experiments coming up. And then the other thing, because right now we should be full on gardening, but we've had something like 7 inches of rain in the last week and a half. Fortunately, we did not have the crazy storms here where I live, just a few miles south of me. One of my friends and viewers, Johnny, her barns were hit by a tornado, and she had a lot of damage on her house, and fortunately no animals were injured as far as I know, as far as she knew. So it could have been much worse, but oh my goodness, tornadoes, when you live in the Midwest, that's just kind of a constant at the edge of your mind. So very thankful we have not had that, but the garden is just mud right now. So I have all these, and again, with my little video tour at the end, I'll show you some of our greenhouse. Our tomato plants are in the greenhouse still and starting to bloom. They have got to get out. So we're hoping that we're supposed to have rain all this next week, basically. So we're hoping that the weather forecaster is wrong, and maybe we can get out in the garden and get those tomato plants in. They desperately need it. So that's, I'm hoping we can get started going with that, and then, yeah, I won't have a lot of time to play with worms. So I told you that it was my birthday this weekend, and I wanted to share one of the gifts I got. This is the cutest little book, Wilby the Bumblebee. And if you're familiar with the Wonky Donkey, was a book that the video of that just has gone crazy on YouTube. In fact, the book was out of print. They put up this YouTube video of, I believe it's a Scottish granny reading the book. It's so funny. This is the same team, author and illustrator, that did that book as well. But this is the cutest story about a bumblebee. It's not a honeybee, but I like my bumblebees too. And this has, it's bumblebees, it's pollination, it's gardening, and it's also knitting and weaving in here. So just a couple pages. The illustrations are great. Now, bumblebees from the day they are born wear a black and yellow jersey just to keep them warm. And Wilby's was special. It was a perfect fit because Wilby's mother had knitted it. A knitted jersey on a bumblebee. And then there's some mishaps that involve weaving and monarch butterflies. I mean, oh my goodness, this book is, I had never seen this before. My parents found it, and this is so cute. The illustrations are great. The opportunities, the book is just cute, but the opportunities to make this into some learning experiences too, I just think this would be so much fun with little kids. So if you're looking for kids books, I definitely have a soft spot in my heart for kids books. So definitely a recommendation, look for Wilby. As an adult, I've read it. I got it yesterday and I've read it through several times and it makes me laugh. So I really appreciated that. So, and then I don't have anything knitted on today except some old socks that I'm not going to show you, but I am wearing my Woman of Wool t-shirt that I got at a fiber festival several years ago. It comes from the Spry Whimsy, and I think you can get them on their website too. But I always enjoy this, and the way it hangs on me, the Woman of Wool, is usually hidden, and so I have fun when people come up and say something about Superwoman, and I say, yes, I'm a super knitter. And I have to show them the Woman of Wool, and typically most people are confused by it, but that's fun too. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the last 2 weeks for me. I have lots coming up again. I have a lot of things that I'm working on, so, and just not ready to show you yet. Don't have enough progress to show you. Not that I did with 2 toes either, have a lot of progress, but anyway, I have a little bit of work yet. I want to embroider my niece's name and my name on here with a date, and then that will be ready to pack up. And hoping to get some time this evening to start cutting out squares for my quilt and go take care of the chickens. And then I think I'm gonna curl up early and enjoy a book and some tea this evening. So I hope whatever you choose to do, you are having a wonderful making weekend as well. And I hope your gathering basket overflows with blessings, just like mine has the last couple weeks. I'll see you soon. Bye for now. Here's just a quick mini tour of the backyard. I've got, well, my parents have, a small greenhouse. Right now, it's really full because the ground is soaking, sloshing wet. We have tomatoes that should have gone out this week, and they are starting to bloom. I was trying to find one here. We saw some the other day that had blooms. Oh, there it is. The water jugs up there are for insulation, thermal insulation. Yep, you can see tomatoes starting to bloom. They have got to get in the ground. They are so root bound. But right now it's so muddy, your feet sink in the garden. And then there's the funky little brooder house that I was telling you about. We built it a couple of years ago out of some wood that we scavenged from a friend's privacy fence that they were replacing. And then over there is my cobbled together chicken yard. It looks pretty bad right now because we still have all the winter panels up. We put greenhouse panels around all the openings and basically make it into a greenhouse in the winter, and we've just been slowly taking those off as the weather warms up. So there they are. There's Charlie the rooster. He likes to keep a close eye on me. My aunt lives behind us, and this was our old screen door from my grandma's house. And there's the chicks, 3 weeks old. They're very shy, so every time I open the door they go running to the back. I definitely don't raise these to be pets. And I'm getting ready to turn off the heat lamp for the day. I just run it at night because we're still getting down in the upper 40s, low 50s at night. So there they are. You can hear Charlie. So they're right now in a small, cardboard enclosure inside the bigger brooder. This will be when we take all the plastic off of it. It'll just be like a big screened in room. So when they get bigger, we'll do that. But for right now, this keeps them from escaping as easily and keeps the heat in during the day, during the night. They can easily get into a little pile and keep themselves warm.